party, everybody. I'm in the home of drummer extraordinaire Keio Stroud, Nashville's finest. Keio, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, man.
So, the reason I do these interviews is because I want people to kind of understand the reason why I look up to the cats I look up to, and you're one of the cats I look up to. So, impress them.
Well,
make them like you.
I have all my clothes on.
You are not naked anymore, which is good.
Yeah. Cool. What do you want to know?
What brought you to Nashville?
I came to Nashville because I wanted to be in the music business. I wanted to do something. I didn't think I was that good of a drummer, so I looked into being a tech. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. It was real fun. I love drums. I love all that fun stuff. So I thought it'd be a cool way to still be around music and do it for a living. Even if I couldn't play drums. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And how young were you when you first got into music?
I was a kid. I started playing drums when I was like 3, 4 years old, and so I've always had a love for the music because my family's into music. And so with that, I always wanted to be a musician and be in music. And then I figured that in Athens you can only go so far unless you're in a band. And I've actually never been in a band. So the next thing was like, man, move to Nashville. J.D. Blair lives here, who I absolutely love J.D. Blair. Mm-hmm. So I talked to him for a little bit, and I talked to Victor a little bit, and then I just moved to Nashville. My dad had a buddy who had a cover band. They needed a drummer. I needed a job. So I played drums in the cover band until I was able to get a job as a tech, which is basically I never got a job as a tech. So I just played drums. Mm-hmm. So technically, I would be a Nashville failure. I did not follow my dreams. I did not get a job as a drum tech. Except for I teched for JD once, I teched for Michael Bland once, and I teched for Neoshi one time.
Nice.
Which is funny because all those teching gigs turned into drum gigs. I teched for Neoshi and got called to audition for John Mayer. Mm-hmm. I teched for...
How'd that go?
I didn't get the gig.
Mm. Who got that gig that time around?
J.J. Johnson.
Oof.
And then I teched for JD, which now I have for 2 shows, which is like Good Morning America and CMAs, and I got to meet Mutt, which is awesome. Nice. And the gig, I forget what gig came out of that, but some drumming gig came out of that one. Mm-hmm. And then Michael Bland, the solo sign, I never got to play a gig with him, but they called me and asked me to sub some dates for Michael, mm-hmm. and it's never happened, but yeah.
Nice. So when you first moved to town, did you immediately start going out and just meeting people, or did you just kind of do it yourself? Or
I did. Before I moved to town, I came for PAS, and I was playing Thai drums at the time, and I met Lee Kelly and someone else. I forgot who the other person was. Oh, Dave McAfee.
Oh, yeah.
And so the advice they had was just to go out every night. Because believe it or not, it's before you had MySpace and Facebook. So the only way to network and people know you is you actually had to get to know people. Mm-hmm. So if you, like now on Facebook, people can like you on Facebook or cannot like you on Facebook. And then when they meet you in person, they may not like you or they may like you. Then it was like, there's no bullshit. It was right there. All right. Hey, I like you. Cool. All right, let's play some gigs together. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, as opposed to like now, where it's like you can see somebody post stuff on Facebook, like, man, that guy's cool, or they're legit, man, and you meet them, they're a piece of shit, or the other way around, Mm-hmm. So,
right on. So, so when you first moved to town, influence-wise, were you into country, or were you just kind of?
Oh yeah.
You have a very eclectic taste like myself, but were you more geared towards that, or just any kind of music?
I like everything, but I like country. Like my granddad he talked about how when they were a kid, they used to listen to the Grand Ole Opry. So Little Jimmy Dickens was something I listened to quite a bit as a kid. I loved Brooks and Dunn, which is hilarious in some ways. They were like my favorite. That's kind of how I was able to get that country feel down. Like I learned how to play country music by listening to Brooks and Dunn, mm-hmm. and playing along to Brooks and Dunn on the radio. basically what I would do is I would put on the country radio station, and then I would just play drums. I would listen to the first bit of it, and then I would play the beat basically for 2 minutes until the next song came on. I did the same thing. And then eventually I started to hear those songs more than once, and I would kind of know the song as soon as it came on, and I would play it. I didn't know who did them until they would say, oh, that was Brooks and Dunn, or this was Alan Jackson, or this was, it was Travis Tritt. I didn't know I had no idea who those people were. But I remember reading an interview with Donnie Wynn when he was playing with Brooks and Dunn, and so that's how I kind of became a fan of that, of the Brooks and Dunn thing. So
right, we're really fortunate living in Nashville, or just in the States now. I mean, you can pretty much have instant access to almost any drummer or musician you want. I know myself. I look at Modern Drummer, or I mean, there's a bunch of podcasts or interviews online and stuff. But back then, there really wasn't much info beyond, magazine, really, or CD sleeve.
Yeah, true. So, anyway, yeah. So it's it really is good, Sorry, I'm ordering heads.
What are you looking at?
Heads. So, as I'm doing this podcast, I'm also getting my my gear together for the year, and kind of confused on some.
For those that don't know who you're currently out with, why don't you let everybody know?
Milli Vanilli.
Milli Vanilli.
I'm currently playing drums on the Milli Vanilli reunion tour. It's going well.
Didn't Vanilli die?
We brought him back.
Hologram.
No, he's real. He just sits there. Just kind of stands there. Falls apart every now and then. No, I'm actually doing I almost said Brooks and Dunn.
You wish.
I wish. I got to play with Kix Brooks this year, man. That was a dream come true. But anyway, I'm gonna go back out with Big and Rich, as far as I know, and play some gigs. And I've been ordering heads. I'm playing a bigger, not really, but technically a bigger drum set than I've ever played. This year, I'm actually having 2 kick drums. So,
Are you actually gonna play double bass this year? Is that a rock and roll thing?
I am going to play both kick drums, but not in the traditional double bass fashion.
Are you sugarfooting it?
So I have 2 kick drums. They are 2 different sizes, 14 by 22 and a 16 by 22. The 14 is the main kick drum, and the 16 is the auxiliary kick drum, wide open, to emulate an 808 kick drum, with the proper gating from the front of house gap that will be used on the songs that have loops in the beginning of them. But I will play them with my left. I will play with my left foot. There's no slave over it. So it'll look like a traditional double bass kit, but not played that way. So,
are you playing like side snare claps, or are you playing like an SPDS?
Side snare, no electronics.
I dig that.
We don't use any electronics on this gig. We don't use any. There's a click for some of the stuff, but no.
There's no loops?
Nope, no
Wow.
loops. So click on some of the stuff. I do use Ableton for clicks, because we have a DJ who drops in samples every now and then, and we learned that the Ableton click lines up with his DJ program click, which I forget what it is, but the click in the iPhone, was it the Frozen Tempo app?
Yeah.
Does not. They do not. Over time, they wave, but for some reason this one does. So, as much as it sucks to have a computer out there just for click, that's what I have it for. But I have a controller. It's actually kind of easy because I have a keyboard controller that sits right there above the snare drum. All the keys are labeled with the name of the songs on them. Mm-hmm. So and there's 2 kill switches on either side. So you just hit it and you have the tempo. On one of the tunes, it counts me in to myself because it starts with a drum solo and it ends. The drum solo has to end and go into the top of a song. So to make sure that I don't play over the 8 bars, which I had before, I have it where it counts me off 1, 2, 3, 4. I start, and then 8 bars, and then when it's time to end, it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because what happens, me and John do it together. So when it goes 1, 2, then like that. So
very cool. Well, you're doing big things with Big and Rich. I mean, you guys just got done doing the Guitar Center sessions and a bunch of other crap. I mean, you did some TV shows. You did The Bachelor, which is my wife's guilty pleasure. And it's just the worst show ever.
It was a great show, man.
Did you find the woman of your dreams?
I decided to marry one of the girls.
The blonde, the white one.
And it was great. She's actually gonna be here in a little bit, so we'll have to wrap this up soon because when Mama gets home, she rules the place. No, it's been good. It was fun. I did almost every TV show that I ever wanted to do, minus the Grammys, which technically would have been 2005, but which is fine. So, and I didn't do. I would like to do Letterman and Kimmel, which maybe next time around we get to do those.
You better get in with Letterman quick because this is the last year.
Yeah, I know. So, but I always want to do Leno too, and then he was gone, so we did Tonight Show either way. So I was fine.
So you did Fallon?
We did Fallon.
Man, yeah.
Got to hang out with Questlove. That dude's got his own bobblehead.
He's like, I mean, yeah, he's a bigger dude, but he's actually really tall. I didn't realize how tall he was.
He's a big guy. All the way around. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
He's a tall dude. He's even he's lost a bunch of weight. He's still a big guy. Yeah, he was super nice, man. Really, really sweet. The funniest thing we had was we swapped drumsticks. And he saw the Black and Stroud sticks and started laughing. He was like, "Dude, that is funny." And I was like, "Thanks, man." And we laughed about it. So
can you explain what those sticks are? Because the people that are listening, they might not know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm black and my last name is Stroud, so I have drumsticks and they say Black and Stroud on them. It's really funny. That's all it is. It's like it started off as a complete joke. It still is a joke. But it's also turned into a strange branding of sorts, without being serious. Like, that's a new thing. I'm learning that drummers and people in music, based using the internet, they start branding things. Which is strange because they're starting to brand things before there's something to brand, which is like putting the cart before the horse. Yeah, which is kind of like, I don't understand that, but that's their thing. They want to be known for this. So you can be called, what do you call it when you have like, your name is something blah blah da da. You know what I mean? Or da da da.
Having some kind of nickname.
And then you have you have that, and then you have like the branding of like, I'm a, this is what I do. I do this. I do that, as opposed to just playing music, and then letting what you do begin to brand you. Like have other people kind of brand what you do. Now I guess it's the thing is to have to do it yourself. Like I am. I don't know, Keio the Black Country drummer. Okay, that's fine, but I don't necessarily want to brand myself as that.
Right. You know what's interesting. Like, I mean, I can really only speak for Nashville, but it seems like Rich was the first cat to really do that in town. I mean, you had, your Eddie Bears and your Paul Limes, but they were just known as who they were, whereas Rich was the first guy to really bring it to a whole other level.
Yeah, he used social media to his advantage, and it wasn't just for him, it was for his production company. He was really pushing that thing more than himself, but he was definitely pushing himself, putting himself out there also. And it did open up a thing for drummers, and especially in Nashville, because it was a thing to be more laid back and be more cool and be more chill, because you didn't have that whole thing in your, you didn't have what's the word I'm looking for? Like, basically your work spoke for you. You didn't have to speak for yourself. And but it worked out great for him, and it inspired other people to do that same thing. Not as he went hard with his. So some other people did it, also, but they didn't go as hard. But the thing that Rich had was he had the talent and the ability to back up what he was saying. The problem is when people do that and they don't have the ability to back it up. When they go, I'm the blah blah blah, and then you go see the product, and it's like this shit made at Kroger minus or something. It's like
right.
it's not, the product isn't there. So yeah, you have the money and time to make your EPK or what do you call those things, or your all that stuff, and then it comes down to play, and it's like, man, that's some of the most average stuff I've heard. That's lame. Spend more time working on your craft,
right?
And then
less time on social media.
Yeah, it's like I've never heard Chris McHugh say, "This is what I do," because I hear it. I never got to, same thing for Shannon Forrest. J.D. Blair. J.D. Blair was to me, he was one of the first drummers that had, in my opinion, an active internet presence without social media, because he had his website, jdblair.net.
I missed that website. That was dope.
And he had, he had the journals. He had the tour journals. Sometimes it took an interpreter to read it, but
in a minute.
Yeah, but if you sat there and took the time to go through it in his own language, and he posts pictures and stuff like that, it was really, really good. It was actually a lot of fun too. I would every week, man, I would look forward to seeing what adventures JD had been on, because he was living my dream, and he was living a lot of people's dreams. Which is kind of the cool thing about Facebook now, is that people get to see you live your dreams and live their dreams, and your family gets to see it, your kids or whatever, they get to see you do your thing without having to actually chat with them every day.
He was one of my earliest influences. I mean, that Live in America record he did with Vic was just unbelievable.
I remember he was J.D. Blair, man, had the White Pearl kit. Him, Victor Wooten on Jazz Central.
Yes.
It came on.
With Ramsey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ramsey Lewis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was You'll Never Find that guy?
No, that's Lou Rawls.
Then who am I
Ramsey Lewis was the keyboard player.
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, I remember I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was, BET was on, because I was, I'm black, so I always watch black entertainment TV. So...
Is that how that works?
Huh?
Is that how that works?
Yeah. I think that's what it stands for, too, actually. I think that's what it stands for. Anyway, but I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was flipping through channels, and I saw this dude playing kick, snare, hat, 2 crash cymbals with a flat ride with rivets in it, and an octopad to the side, and as a bass player that was blowing my mind, and this drummer who was playing the most simple groove, and I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be him.
Did you have the J.D. Blair set up at one point?
I had it my entire teenage life, actually. I didn't play a ragtime until I moved to Nashville. I played 18 12-inch snare drum, 12-inch hi-hats, 14, 16, 20-inch ride.
Did you have rivets too?
I had rivets in it. And then...
so did you play a floor tom, or you literally had kick snare?
Kick snare, that was it.
Wow.
And then I saw Vinny Colaiuta on something, and he played 2 floor toms. Boom. I love the way that sounded. So I got 2 floor toms. They were the same size, 16 and 16. 16 by 16, 16 by 16. And I just tuned them differently. I tuned one normal, and I tuned one really, really low. So that was it. So then when I moved to Nashville, I played snare drum, which is no longer 12, it was a normal snare drum. Snare drum, 18-inch kick drum, 14-inch floor tom, 16-inch, 13-inch floor tom, 14-inch floor tom. And then I had an 8-inch rag tom, which is hilarious. And that was the kit I played for the first year I was in Nashville. And then eventually the drums obviously got bigger as I kind of got more aware of what I wanted to do and what made sense sound-wise and what was happening on the radio and what the different gigs were happening. But yeah, I was all about it. So I still have issues playing a ragtime. Like I don't play a ragtime. I have one there because I'm fat. But as far as playing them, I'm kind of lame. So.
Okay, so obviously we know you're playing with Big and Rich, which is great. But you've actually had a really, really diverse career. When I first got hip to you, it was back when you were playing with Rodney Crowell, who's of course a country legend. And before that, I mean, you had a really, illustrious career. Can you break down kind of like the
I think if I can
the
remember,
beginning all the way to kind of where you're at right now?
I think it was, I have a hard time remembering this, so I can pull it up. Sorry, folks.
He's on his computer right now. See, here's the thing. I've had many late nights over here looking at old photos from touring and old gear and different setups from different drummers. So that's usually how you remember, oh yeah, I used to play with that guy. That's fun.
Yeah, I just forget certain things. I'm kind of stupid. So, yeah, so it was like, okay, if I remember correctly, it started with, I did the thing with Tyrone, which is awesome.
With who?
Tyrone Smith. It was my dad's buddy, Super T, had the cover band.
So he was a guy you moved here to play with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did that. And then from there it went to, I played Wade Hayes, had a band called Mick Hayes. Wade was a 90s country star, and then he came back 2001, 2002 to do a duo with a guy named Mark McClure. So they had a thing called Mick Hayes, and it was great. That was fun. So I did that. And then when that ended, I just did the Wade Hayes thing. But in between then, I did my first Nashville record with a band that never came out. It was like Tim DuBois had put together a band of dudes who were all side guys. And they were going to do, it was going to be all side dudes. And they did a record. We did a record. Or let's do we did 6 tunes just to pitch to see if it was going to work. Well, nothing really happened at that. So it didn't work. So then I went back out with just Wade as a solo guy. And then from that, I went out with...
Was that a bus gig or was that van? Or
Bus, oh yeah.
Okay.
I've never done the van thing until... I did the van thing until I did Frankie Ballard. And that was a pure budget meets love thing. Mm-hmm. So then so I was in the Mark McGuinn thing, it was kind of what it was, and it was fun. In between that, I had random dates with just random people that I really didn't know, just kind of, just songwriters. Mm-hmm. Sometimes just around town. And then I got a gig with this band called Everlife, and they were like a Christian pop band they're on Disney Records. So we would do these shows, it'd be them and this like girl named Hannah Montana that like nobody knew at the time. So sometimes Everlife had a band, so we would have to play with Hannah Montana sometimes, which was interesting. Because there was no.
So you played with Miley Cyrus and you didn't know who she was?
Yeah, nobody did. She was just starting out. It was just kind of a thing. It was what it was. She would play first, even.
Does that happen often in Nashville where you have to share a band?
Well, yeah, not
like,
always.
For budget.
For budget reasons, but this wasn't even a budget thing. It was just like it just happened. It was just kind of like, oh, this girl's gonna play 2 songs, and you guys are playing an hour set, and it'd be kind of cool if she could play the band. Okay, cool. It was that kind of thing. But I didn't even know who she was until years later that it was even her. So I never even once was like, yeah, I played with Hannah Montana. That's stupid. So I never did it. So I did that for a little bit, and then Tim DuBois called me and said that they had a gig. They wanted me to play drums on National Star. So I went and auditioned.
Can you explain what that was?
It was basically American Idol for just country music. It was on USA. And I remember it well. It was me, Chuck Tilley, and J.D. Blair were the 3 guys that auditioned for the gig. And
so they wanted a black guy?
Kind of. But they ended up with a black guy and then a white guy. So I ended up getting the gig first because I'm beautiful. And then I ended up losing the gig because I'm beautiful. Basically, they just said they changed. They had a change of what they wanted. They wanted a different look, I think, and they wanted a different thing. I don't think it had anything to do with me personally or my playing, I don't think. So they decided to go with Chuck Tilley, and Chuck did a gig for a while, and it's been great for him. I still hang out with all those people. Like, there was no ill will. Like, I wasn't like, oh man, you fired me, hate you. No, I just didn't care. It's like, all right, cool. So then
you got a really cool kit out of it, though.
I did. Well, I mean, I bought it. I got one. Yeah, so I didn't have that Manu Cache kit, which I don't have anymore, which sucks. But it's at the time. Anyway, so from that, the next day, it was like, okay, well, I'm fired. All right, it sucks. Next day, Seth Roush got the gig with Gary Allen. I think that's right. And so he was playing with Brian McComas. So the next day, I was in a rehearsal for a showcase with my buddy Clint Ingersoll. And I got 3 phone calls. Brian McComas, Trent Wellman, and then a possible Rodney Crowell call. So, possible Rodney Crowell gig thing. So, McComas called first, so I said yes. Right after I got on the phone with McComas, Trent Wellman called, and I said, damn, I can't do it. I just said yes to this gig. and then Rodney's, I got a call from Rodney's people saying that the drummer might be leaving. And I was like,
who was his drummer at that time?
At the time it was Neoshi. Neoshi called me and said he might be leaving to go with Trisha. And I was like, damn, okay. So I was like, well, this don't suck. You just got fired and got 3 gig offers. Ooh. Yeah. All right. So obviously I took the first one, which is the Brian gig. And that was fun. So I played with Brian for about 3 months. And then right during that, the Rodney gig came open. And I remember I being in San Francisco. Rodney called me and said, hey man, can you be, it was really funny, he goes, can you be in Nashville at SR tomorrow? I was like, I'm in San Francisco. Yeah, sure. So I changed my flight, to the next morning, because we were leaving later, but I changed next morning. I flew home, got my car, have no tunes to audition with, by the way. There's no songs.
Were you familiar with his
no.
career? Okay.
I mean, I was, yeah. Because, Wade was a big fan. And then I'd seen him play with Neoshi a couple times. And then Neoshi had given me a board tape, but I didn't have it with me. Like, at that time, you had CDs. Mm-hmm. Or, only rich people had iPods. Yeah. And I was definitely not rich.
There was no Dropbox or...
Yeah, so you had, and he gave me a CD, and I left it at home thinking that, I'm kind of a weird dude. I don't think that people are going to really call me for stuff until they actually do it. And then I don't think I'm actually going to play until I'm there doing it. So I never put anything into it. So anyway, I remember flying home. I got in my car, had a pair of sticks, went to SR, and there was a line of dudes to audition. And I remember going in, met the guy. It was him and Claudia. We played one song. He's like, cool. Played another song. He stopped me halfway through. And he said, gig's yours, man, if you want it. Thanks. And he told everybody else to go home.
So, okay, wait. Let's go back a little bit. How many cats were auditioning?
I can't remember, 5 maybe.
Okay, so it wasn't like a massive cattle call or anything.
No. You wouldn't. That's the thing. You don't really have massive cattle calls for established artists who want musicians. He didn't want a drummer. He didn't just want somebody to come in and play drums. He wanted to have, it was like the more musically driven the gig is, the less people are going to be auditioning for it because it's a certain thing that they're looking for.
Were there cats that you knew?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there were. And I was surprised by it. I was surprised by the decision. As if I'm always surprised. When I got the Big Rich gig, I was surprised. I was like, really? Like, you could have hired all these other dudes and hired me. Wow. Okay, thanks. Not that they're getting anything less or worse, but I just was like, all right, cool. So I played Rodney for 10 years, but he didn't tour during the summer. So in the summers, I got to do Sarah Buxton, Ray Scott, Terry Clark, Jake Owen, Halfway to Hazard, Randy Houser, Trent. Actually, back out with Trent. Actually, was really funny. I did Joey DeGraw. I did some Will Kimbrough dates. I went out with Kip Moore. I played with Jed. I did the Jamie O'Neill thing one summer. Chuck Wicks. I'm reading this, sorry.
He's got an email open. This is a lot of names, though.
John Popper, Guy Clark.
John Popper from Blues Traveler?
Yeah. Eric Headley, Ty Herndon, Jimmy Wayne. I did Randy Rogers one summer in the middle of that when his drummer was having babies. The Lost Trailers, Shelley Wright, Josh Grayson. I did Jaron and the Long Road Jaron and the Long Road to Love, which is Jaron Lowenstein, and I did Frankie Ballard and Laura Bundy and Keith Anderson, all within that.
Jeez.
Because every summer for 10 years, I could go and play whoever I wanted to. So one year
that doesn't suck because usually the summer is when you're like trying to get stuff and you seem to.
it worked.
Yeah.
So one summer, I remember it really well. I had a drum kit out with Sarah Buxton, had a kit out with Jamie O'Neill, had a kit out with Rodney, had a kit at home, and I had a kit in Carthage for sessions. Because at one point in time, I actually did a fair amount of sessions. They weren't always records. They'd be demos or they'd be independent records. They weren't always massive things, but I did do them. So, yeah. So that was that. So that just kind of kills 10 years of my career there, which is great. And then from doing the Rodney gig, my last kind of year of doing Rodney stuff, we did a boat. What do you call that thing? The Keio cruise. So I got to meet Kev Mo, and so I ended up working with him on a record that he had that was actually had 3 Grammy nominations, which none of them won, but it was kind of cool to be, up on a record that was nominated for a Grammy. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of hip, and it's also turned into a great working relationship. I'm doing the new Taj Mahal record with him, which has been fun too. So, yeah, and it's all that's been really, really cool. Working with Kip, with Manny Medina's like one of my best buddies. So when he called me about doing the Kip thing, that was super fun because I was like, man, I get to go out with Manny again. And that was cool. And then last year, January, I went out with Stoney LaRue. It was a really funny story. It's like, January 2nd, I'm sitting at home. I got stood up from a date from a girl who I hate, but I like her because if I hadn't been out with her, I would have answered the telephone. But Stoney called and was like, hey man, can you be in Steamboat, Colorado tomorrow? You're on the first flight out. Yes. Can you play the next 2 weeks? Yes. 2 weeks turned into 2 months basically. So last year was like the crazy year. I did Stoney. It went in this order. And with literally a day, sometimes a day or 2 days in between. Stoney LaRue, Chad Warricks, Rodney Crowell, back to Chad, back to Stoney, back to Rodney, back to Chad, back to Stoney, back to Chad, to Rodney, to the ACMs of Keith Urban, back to Chad, Jake Owen, Big and Rich, Jake Owen, Big and Rich, Chad, Rodney, Big and Rich. Rest of the year.
Okay, so
I couldn't repeat that, but I just
that's like saying the alphabet backwards.
It was or Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, so yeah, it was really weird, man. It was good. Like it felt nice to be in demand. In between that, I did sessions. I finished up. We started the Taj Mahal thing. I did some stuff with Chad. I did some recordings with Rodney. Did some other just random stuff in town. It was great, and then this year so far is starting out to be cool. We had 5 weeks off on the road, so I just kind of spent that time to get to go myself.
Have you been building a new drum kit?
I have.
Because that seems to be what most of your posts are these days.
So for the past...
So I got the drum kit set up, and no, that's not it. This is it.
It changed up until today. Today was considered the final day of it, because we start rehearsals tomorrow. So... yeah, so I had this kit last year that I painted myself. It looks horrible, but it looks great. The color's great, but the paint job is really, really shitty. But Greg Morrow, I love Greg Morrow, and I love his seafoam green kit. So originally I wanted to paint my drums seafoam green because I wanted to be like Greg Morrow. A lot of things would have to change for me to be like Greg Morrow, but I wanted to be like him. So I eventually found some paint that was seafoam green. Attempted to paint the drums. I destroyed. The paint job was horrible, so I had to start over. And so then I just got I got spray paint out of rattle can. But I actually initially bought a spray gun, a paint gun, the whole deal. I was gonna go all pro with it. Anyway, turns out I spray painted this kit peekaboo blue.
I remember at your older apartment, it was everywhere. The paint was just everywhere.
It was everywhere. So I had peekaboo blue. And then I originally had wood hoops on the kit, which looked awesome. So I nicknamed the kit Woody Blues, and then it had chrome hardware on it. Then the wood hoops went away because I started playing. I was in a Chad gig, so it was a little hard-hitting thing. Actually, true story is, I got drunk and pissed off one night after a gig and took the floor tom and chucked it in the parking lot, and I broke the wood hoops. So the next the next gig, Ben Jackson was subbing for me, and I forgot to tell him that I broke the hoops on the 16-inch floor tom. So
it only had one floor tom, right?
Yeah. So he had to play.
Whoops.
So he had to play the gig with a busted floor tom head. The head was great, but you couldn't tune it. Sorry, Ben. So then it had. I just put normal hoops on it, and then I was at Mapex one day, and I was like, man, I was looking on the internet, and I saw this. Jeff Picaro had this blue kit with black hardware, and I was like, I want that. So I asked Mapex for some black hardware, and we made that happen. So we put black hardware on the blue kit, and it said that we're all year. I said all year. Actually, that was
longer than a year.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even longer than a year. That only happened in August. Believe it or not.
Really?
Just in August. That kit had so many times. Yeah. So August, that kit had black hardware. The black hardware stayed on from August until last week. When once again I wanted to go with a different kit from Apex, so we were trying to get a Saturn kit with no finish because I wanted to paint the drums because for some reason I like doing it. I'm a horrible painter, but I like doing it.
Are you gonna at least sand it this time, or are you just gonna leave it?
No sanding. The drum this time. So the Saturn kit, we couldn't get the Saturn kit in time, so I got my identity shells. So I managed to keep the kick drum from the last kit, but I got new shells all the way around. And so I called up Hibbs, and I made it happen, and they didn't have a 13. I got 13, 15. They didn't have 13-inch black hoops. So he was like, hey man, here's these unfinished hoops, so you can paint them black if you want to, since you like to paint. I was like, that sounds like a great idea. So I put the hoops on there with the black hardware and the blue, still same color blue, drum, and I was like, man, I really like the way this looks. So I hit him up. I said, hey man, you got any more of that unfinished hardware? And he was like, we do. So now the kit is blue with truly unfinished hardware. Like I gotta put some sort of clear coat on it because it's gonna rust. So the kit is 22 by 16, 22 by 14 main kick drum, 13 by 9. 15 by 13, 18 by 11 gong drum, 4 by 14 snare drum, 5 by 12 snare drum. I think I've probably switched the diameters in there. And then 22-inch crash, 22-inch crash, 22-inch crash, 19-inch China, 19-inch China.
15. So you're using the twins on both sides?
15-inch X. Yeah, at the moment. That might change, but...
Okay, so let me stop you real quick. You're using all crashes. Can you explain a little bit that? Because I mean, I've kind of seen you evolve from using more, typical sizes to just massive everything.
So the all crashes come from this gig. Actually, it came before this gig. I got Sabian makes these vault crashes, 22-inch vault crashes, and they sound really good. And one day I didn't put a ride symbol in the bag, so I showed up and I had all these crashes. So I just put some tape around the bell and played it, and I was like, that's my ride symbol, and it has been for a year and a half. So
you taped it up just a little bit?
Just a little bit. And then when I got the BNR gig, I decided to put a ride symbol up. I was like, man, I need a ride symbol. So I had a 22-inch something. I had a 22-inch Memphis ride, I think, at first. I put up, and it was okay, it just didn't cut. And so then I was like, decided that I was crashing on it, so I was like, okay, I crash more than I ride, so let's put the crash symbol back up, and it worked out. So now, no matter where I swing, minus the Chinas, I get the same crash sound, and that's all that matters. So I'm able to physically play the gig without having to think, oh, I have to hit a crash symbol. Let's hit a symbol, and they all do the same thing. And there's nothing. If I want something quick, I hit the China. I have a 19-inch Paragon China, which doesn't sound like your typical China symbol. So
it's actually pretty thin, isn't it?
It's really thin,
yeah. And
you can ride on it, which is nice. So we play. There's a thing called 8th November. I actually play the China as a ride symbol. During the solo section, da da ba da ba ga da 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 like that, and it's great because it's not overwhelming, and me and John's playing the same rhythms. I'm not sure if I think he was playing the rhythm on guitar, and over the course of a few gigs, I just figured out what he was doing because he was doing it consistently. So I just started to just double what he was doing, and it works. So. And then I was playing the 6.5x14 Craviatos at first, which I love those drums. And then I decided that I wanted to go with different sounds, so I whipped out my Pearl snare drum that I've had since like 1984. I played it for a bit, busted something on it, and I had a backup drum this guy made. It was Mark Hayward. Snare drum I actually played on The Bachelor. Really, really nice guy. He was in the Snare Drum Olympics, and I heard the drum, I liked it, and asked him if I could borrow it. And I had it. I played on The Bachelor, then I had it in my case as a backup. And then when I broke the Pearl drum, I put it up, and the front of house guy was like, "That's it, man. That's the drum. That's the one." Like, yeah. So, Mark Hayward, your drum is the one. So I'll send you some money for it. So
I've seen it. It's nice. You showed it to me.
It's a great drum. So that's the drum. When I first moved to Nashville, I was talking about this. I played a normal snare drum, but it was a 4x14 tie drum. I had 3 of them. I had a maple, basswood, and a birch one. And I wish I still had those drums, but I don't. I don't know. I don't even know where they are. I didn't sell them. I remember at one point in time I gave away. When I left Ty and went to Yamaha, I gave away like a room full of drums because like I don't feel like I didn't pay anything for them, so it was a trade off that we had going on. So I didn't sell them. I didn't think that taking money from them would be morally correct because I didn't give any money for them. So I gave them away to a buddy who was playing tie drums at the time. Still, I said, "Hey man, I got this kit. Shit you not, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 22, 22, 20, 24 with some snare drums." And I said, "Just come get it." And he did. I probably could have paid my rent for a while if I sold that kit, but I didn't feel right doing it, so I gave it to him. But the 4x14 is my drum. And Mapex now makes it Russ Miller's 4.5 or something like, or 4 5/8 or whatever it is. But that drum sounds really good, and I played that on the CMT tailgate party thing, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. So I really, more likely that'll be the backup drum, so I can have 2 4s. But right now the Mark Hayward drum is where it's at.
Okay, quick question. You've switched companies before, and like you have a very strict stance on why. I mean, like I've asked you in the past. Would you mind breaking down the reason for a switch and like what you do in a situation when you do leave a company? Like you kind of briefly touched on it, but would you go a little bit deeper?
For the most part, it's a working relationship. It goes both ways. You, as a player, you get product at a reduced rate for support, and in return you give advertisement. You know what I mean? So like the best gig I think as far as things go are Questlove's gig with Fallon, because he has a Ludwig. Right, he's from Ludwig. Yeah, he has a Ludwig kit on TV every night. If Ludwig had to pay for the amount of time that you actually saw Ludwig on the air, they would go broke because they couldn't afford it. So what happens is Quest needs a drum kit, or whoever, me or whatever, need a drum set. So Ludwig or whatever company would go, "Hey, we'll supply this for the advertising." And you go, "Okay, cool." So there it is. You have to be able to provide a service so they can provide a service. If that makes any sense. So when you leave somewhere, it's a business thing. I think you should present it in a business thing, because you are basically telling someone, for whatever reason, you can have many different reasons, but for whatever reason, you are no longer wanting to be associated with this brand. It could be because you got a better deal, which happens. It could be because something's gone wrong. Your artist relations guy or the support has gone down, and somebody's offering you better support. Or it could simply be that the product is bad or not up to your standards anymore. If you are endorsing something and you break it all the time, you probably are going to and should move on to something else that's not going to break. And I think when you leave a company, if you write it down in a beautiful written, breakup letter, you write it, you send it to them. But most of the time they'll call you, and you talk about it. Or if you're really tight with the people, but the product is wacky, then you call them up and you go, hey man, here's the deal. I've decided to leave. And my reasoning is this, and I didn't want to write it down. I wanted to call you. I know it says I should write it down, so if you need me to write it down, I'll write it down for you. But I'm calling to tell you that I no longer want to do this because for X reasons. This reason, that reason, that reason, that reason. And they will say, man, do we do to make it better? And you go, well, I've talked to you about it, and it hasn't happened. So, no. I want to move on, but when I'm in LA, we're gonna have coffee, or we're gonna go for drinks, or whatever. And I think you do it that way, and people respect you. If you just up and jump and do something and don't tell anybody, then that's kind of a wacky thing. I've experienced that a little bit, where like I switched to something and to try it out and dug it, and really didn't tell anybody because I wasn't endorsing the product. I just dug what was happening and just I didn't take it off. I just kept using the said product without endorsing it, and this year it's basically turned into an endorsement. But before that, I didn't. I was just using something, and I liked it. And I was like, well, I'll just keep using this until it breaks, and then when it breaks, I will either go back to using what I was using before, or if I really, really like it, I'm just going to make a switch. So I decided to make a switch. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just. You got everything you gotta do. You gotta be a man about it. You know what I mean? It's like you can't hide.
Or a woman.
Or woman. You can't be freaked out about it. It's like, hey, this isn't working. So I gotta do something different. I gotta do something that works for me. I've done that. I was thinking about doing some of that recently with some stuff, and obviously it's worked out. But you have to. But you just can't do it to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you.
It seems like nowadays a lot of guys are just endorsing to say they endorse.
Well, it's to feed your own ego. Mm-hmm. That's what there's a situation out there, that people are, how can I put it? They are endorsing a product, and they are really endorsing the product, and the company is allowing them to endorse the product, but everybody endorses the product. Right. Everybody's an endorser. If you buy it, you're an endorser. And it's like, that's cool if you like the product, but if you're buying it and being a part of it just to have an endorsement, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I think me and Yoshi were talking about this. We're talking about signature products and endorsements. It used to be that you had to do something, you had to have a certain amount of influence over the community before you had an endorsement. Mm-hmm. And you really had to have a certain amount of influence over people before you had a signature product. Well,
you had to be like a name. Like, it wasn't just, oh, hey, here's this new band, and here's a signature product. Exactly. It's like, no, he's like a legend.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And now it's changed a bit, which is good. I mean, that's worked for me. Like, I don't have a signature product yet. But, new snare drum, 2016 Mapex. Maybe new promo sticks too. Anyway, true story. But it's no longer that. But they're also, with the event of social media, people are also being able to put out, more advertising than anything else. Mm-hmm. Now the other thing is, the thing is that where there's different levels of endorsement. There's like entry level. There's the entry level. There's the mid. There's the working. There's above. Then there's like platinum status or whatever the hell you want to call it. Whatever people, everybody has a different scale they use. Right. But the first thing is, like, you call a company up, you're like, hey, Stick Company X, I use your stuff. I got a road gig, and, we're in a van, we're playing about 130 shows, 200 shows. So we're doing about 200 shows, which means that's about 215 pair of sticks. At now that's $8-9 a pop. So you're looking at roughly, I don't know how much money is that.
$2,000, man.
$2,000 worth of sticks. Yeah. Well, I love your sticks, and this is what we're doing, and I'll gladly tell people that I use sticks, brand X sticks, if they ask, and we'll put you blah blah blah. We'll put your sticker on a trailer, a van, and blah blah blah. Is there a way you can help me out? And the company be like, yeah, man, we'll sell you sticks at $6 or whatever, or, and you go, man, thank you so much. And then there's the other thing where it's like, hey, I have the whole deal of having a record deal is gone. Band situations are just not really happening unless you're in a metal band. And if so, you're like, well, I'm in this band, and I play brand X sticks, and we got the theme song for Charmed, or we had the theme song for whatever, blah, 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 and we're playing some shows, and, we're on Warner Brothers, blah, 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 and, we're doing a little headlining club date. Can you help me out? Yeah, they'll help you out, Then it's the, hey, man, I'm with this artist, we're doing the Florida Georgia Line tour, and we're playing arenas every night for 35 minutes. But we're doing it, and I'll put your kick drum head. I'll put your logo on my kick drum head. Mm-hmm. Can you help me out? Then then it's like, man, we'll get this guy 2 bricks of sticks, right, and then $6 off, or whatever. Yeah. And then you have we're doing the direct support guy. We're the middle guy, and when we're not doing direct support on the Luke Bryan tour, we are doing our own club and theater tour, headlining. And then it's like, yeah, we'll hook you up. And you have I play drums for Bob Seger, and blah blah, and then it's like, yeah, well, whatever you need, we'll get to you, and because you now have an influence, you have a direct influence over the 2 opening bands or 3 opening bands on your tour, and then every drummer that shows up to see Bob Seger is gonna notice your kick drum head with a sticker on it, or in the case of ProMark, which is so brilliant, I'll show you this. I'm demonstrating this. So, the reason this is here is that when you see this stick go like that, you notice there's a black spot in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody else does that. That's a ProMark stick. Mm-hmm. First has the red dot now, so you see the red, it's up. But that happened, and as a drummer, you would pay attention to that. You go, oh man, I don't know. There's no. Oh, man, he's playing the ProMarks.
Right.
Yeah, and so you have that, and then there's the switching of companies because you think something's cooler, blah blah blah. That's great, but at the end of the day, it's a relationship, and you have to realize what do you really have to offer. If you're gonna switch companies because you don't think you like what something does, then don't. Just call them up and say, hey man, I play your stuff and I'd like to have a kit. I'm going to buy a kit. Can you help me out with buying a kit? But I don't want to be an endorser. I just want to, see if I can get a discount on a kit. And they may, they may be okay with that, But if you're if you have a gig and you have a decent gig and you switch to something and then something else comes along better 6 months later and you switch to that, then that happens again, you switch to that, then all of a sudden your word already didn't mean shit in the beginning because nobody knows who you are. But now you really have a reputation of kind of being a guy that just plays whatever, and people will think it's free. People are like, man, he's just playing what's free, and a lot of times you're paying for it. Right. But they'll be like, oh man, he must be, your perception is whatever, and then your word of the product is no longer cool because you've played everything with no. You can say the same thing. Man, I love this. This is my sound. This is the feel I've always wanted. Oh, I love this drumstick. You can say all that, and it doesn't mean anything. For Vinny Colaiuta to say, oh man, I switched to Piety because this is my sound, I believe it. One, the 8 Customs came as a result of that was their competition with Piety. That's why the 8 Customs came too, from my understanding. And Vinny was the big guy that pushed that. So it made sense for him to go to Piety because that's the sound. When he says, man, this is the sound I was hearing, it makes sense because he was a fan of that type of cymbal before he made the switch to go to Piety. And then on this, drumstick level for those guys, like for Vinny or for whoever, if they had a signature stick somewhere else and they go, in Anton say, they go somewhere else, well, that stick model goes with them. You know, they basically are going to get a better service somewhere else, but the product, and someone else will be making the product, but they will make that same model stick. It might change a little bit here and there, and obviously different woods, you know, where people get their wood feels differently, but it's a service thing. At that point, it's like, man, I'm going to get a better service with this brand and that brand, so why not? You know,
right?
If you're gonna, I switched a few years ago, man. Like I switched from Pisces to Sabian for a couple reasons. One, I love Pisces symbols, but my guy that was there, he left, and so I was left with two of the dudes who I love dearly, but my dude left, you know, and then it was expensive for me to play Pisces. At the time, I was fucking broke, you know, and I love Pisces. I've never really owned Zildjians ever in my life. I'm like probably the only guy in America that doesn't. I still don't own any Zildjian symbols. You know, I have a pair of Zildjian Chad Chromehole sticks. And that's the only Zildjian product that I own, and it really is like the only Zildjian product I've owned my entire life. I think I may have had an 18-inch medium thin crash that my grandmother bought me for Christmas one year. But other than that, I've always played Pisces until 2007 or 8 is when I switched to Sabian, and from then on I've only played Sabian.
I mean, I've seen they take great care of you, man. I mean,
oh, they're great. They're sweet, and the people at Pisces are really great. We're all still friends. Kelly Pisces is a friend of mine. You know, she comes to town, we hang out, we grab dinner or whatever. No hard feelings, but I called and said, hey, I was playing with Little Big Town at the time, and I was like, I need darker symbols, and you guys don't make the symbols I want, you guys aren't making, and so I want to make a switch. They asked me where I was going, I told them, and they asked, you know, they're like, man, are you getting a better deal? And I was like, well, I'm just getting the sound I want, so yeah, it's a better deal, because it's the sound that I'm wanting, and you guys don't have it, and everything was cool, and that's the truth. So that time, you know, I was playing 20-inch crashes, really thin 20-inch dark crashes. I was playing the Manhattan stuff, and the only people that made the Manhattan stuff was Sabian,
right?
Which I loved. So that's what I did. And from then, I've changed some of my setup over the years since then. But Sabian's been real consistent and really cool and really nice about stuff. So there it is. They've been, you know, and I switched to ProMark, same thing. Found a stick I liked. There it is. So it worked. And same thing with Mapex, even like with Mapex, I was a Gretsch guy because I have switched companies a couple times. I went from Tide to Yamaha to Gretsch to Mapex, and the selling point with Mapex is that Joe Hibbs was the selling point for me. He was. They're here in Nashville, which is great. So when talking to him, I got to go out, play the drums, picked out a drum kit, took it out on the road, played a few shows, got to be comfortable with it, put my heads on it, got to be comfortable with the kit, brought it back. It was like, man, you know what? I can get down with this. So we did. So I switched to Mapex. I've been there 3-4 years now, maybe, and the customer service is great. The drums are great. They were super nice. They had my big old fat face, you know, at NAMM, which I thought was really nice and sweet of them.
Man, the Nashville guys were getting some love at that show. There was Sean and Zach.
Because we're fucking awesome. Of course. Well, you know what? And this is, I mean, I'll say this about all of us, and including myself in this, but we strive to work every day. Like, in Nashville, musicians want to work every day. Every morning, like, we get up and we go, man, I hope my phone rings for a gig tonight. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And you go, and then if it doesn't, you go hang out and watch other people play. But essentially, this is one of the places where people work every day. Like, if I wanted to, I think I could work every day in some shape or form playing drums, be it recording, sessions, showcases, downtown,
something.
Yeah. If you really, really want, and people do it. There are some guys who work every day, 2, 3, 4 times a day. So I think that it's about time that people start getting some love, because everybody thinks they want to be like Steve Gadd, or they want to be like Dave Welko, or they want to be Dennis Chambers because they have the huge gig. But are those dudes really playing every day? Are they making money every day? Like, you look at a rock band, right? Say you take, I don't know, rock band X, their band. Just say take Creed for example, right? Wow, I'm not sure what there. Anyway, take Creed for example. Creed was huge, but the reality of it is, once they got to a certain point, Creed was doing top 75 days a year, and then they would take a year off to do a tour. To do a record, right? So this guy is playing 75 shows a year, and he's doing a record. So you only get 75 chances to see this guy play live, right? Now, it's a huge gig, and Scott is a really nice guy, and good player. So only 75 times do you get to see, this guy play. This guy gets to be an influence, minus being on the record. But every day in Nashville, you can go downtown, and you might be able to see, Lee Kelly. You might be able to see, Harry Lang. You might be able to see Trey Cordell. You might be able to see Mike Catone or whoever every day playing drums.
Right. And these are all guys that have, like, gigs,
They
too.
have gigs, yeah. They have road gigs.
And that's the thing that you don't really see, like, in L.A. as much, or New York. Maybe, but, where, like, in any given day, you could see any of those guys on Lower Broadway.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're there and they're playing, you know what I mean? Or you see them at a showcase, or you can go see, there's Greg Morrow or whoever probably works every day, or Jerry Rowe and Miles McPherson. Those guys work all the time, So, yeah, I think that the Nashville drummers should get love because they are truly the working musicians. Like, I'm not saying that people in New York don't work every day and LA don't work every day either, but I'm just saying there are a ton of dudes here that work all the time, and it's the model. Like, the model of Nashville is not, oh, yeah, let's work on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like, let's work every day.
Yeah.
I need to work every day. So, yeah. Sorry.
No, that's good. It's true.
It's my rant on Nashville. But you also have, like, you think, we were talking about this the other day, it was like, or actually this morning, how, I was over SR today, and we were talking about how people can no longer ignore the country or Nashville influence, because now you have the biggest gigs are based out of Nashville. Mm-hmm. And the guys who have the biggest gigs now are still based in Nashville. Now, LA still has the influence guys. You still have your J.R. Robinsons, you still have your Benny Calutas, you still have those dudes. But as far as guys with big gigs and a genre that's working, country is it, man. Tim McGraw still plays arenas. Chesney plays arenas and stadiums. Aldine, right. Taylor Swift,
And the cool thing is that every guy you mentioned, like, we all know those guys.
Yeah,
those drummers, we know those guys.
Yeah, I was just hanging out with Rich the other day, and it was really funny. Me and Rich were hanging out, and he had his beanie on, so nobody it was. But it was just, but it's funny. It's like,
he puts a hat on, and all of a sudden he's invisible.
He's a normal dude. But yeah, you had that, and people support each other. That's the other day. Me and Jeff Marino plays drums with Darius Rucker. Yeah. He and I were hanging out, and that's the beauty of Nashville, is that you can hang out with anybody you want to, as long as you're not an idiot. People are so nice here. Billy Freeman, that plays with Justin Lynch, me, him, and Kevin Murphy, who's out with Randy Houser, all had lunch a couple weeks ago or the other day. And just talked about how cool it is, or Nick Buda, Nick Buda lives 4 blocks away from me, and then Ben Caesar, who plays with Paisley, lives 4 blocks. Me and Ben had dinner last night together, and it was just like, you have that community of dudes, and for a guy who doesn't, like myself, I don't feel like I'm that great of a drummer.
You're not.
I know. I know I'm not. I fucking hit shit. It's like I can count to 4 most days and play drums. But as a guy who loved music as a kid and loved drums and loved drummers and loved information, it's so cool that you can go out every day and run into people. And then once you start running into people, you exchange phone numbers, you get to know them. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, you're buddies. You know what I mean? Like, and you're not even like work buddies, because last thing you want to talk about is drums. You're talking about family, your kids, your ex-wife.
What did we talk about the last time me and Murphy hung out? We talked about immunizations and...
Yeah, I really wasn't paying attention. I was so fucking drunk. No, I was joking. I stopped drinking at that point, I think. No, I didn't. No, I wasn't. I was still drunk. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's just... But that's the thing. It's like you know, there's a group of us that we get out, we hang out, and we don't talk about drums. We talk about life, kids, cars. Because I was in the process of buying a car, so everybody was like helping me buy. You know, everybody had information about what car. It was a big deal, man.
That was the end of an era. You had that car for like 14 years.
I did, yeah. You know, and then there was or if we talk about drums, it's like something rare that you can't find. Like McHugh will have some sort of amazing, Craviotto snare drum that we all drool over, or Nick will have something, or Jerry will have some, or Murphy has this really beautiful sonar kit that he hates, and that we all, I say he hates, he loves it, but we all go, man, why play anything else if you have that kit? Don't play anything else, just want to play that. But other than that, it's just kind of a thing, and you have, I have people all the time hit me up about hanging out in Nashville, and I like it. It's kind of weird because I really don't think I'm that great of a dude or that great of a drummer or have the influence that some people say I have, I guess. But every day somebody hits me up on Facebook and they want to hang out and talk about music, or hey man, we're moving to Nashville, and someone said that you're the guy to talk to, and
you're like Huggy Bear.
Well, yeah,
like you're
I guess so.
You're okay. When I first moved to town. We hung out like all the time.
Yeah, I'd be bothered the shit out of me.
Yeah, of course. I'd be up at your house till 1 or 2. Well, what's funny is I'd come over for like one thing, and then we just sit while you're rearranging your cymbals or whatever the frick, and we would just talk for like 5 hours about just anything.
Yeah.
The thing that I like most about hanging out with you is that you not only have been here for 14 years, 15 years, something like that, but you also know everybody, and everybody knows you.
Yeah, because I want money.
Well, I can't tell you how many times hey, are you Keio? Everybody always thinks I'm freaking you, man.
Well, I'm not that ugly, people. Not that no. I don't mind it. Like she's a new friend of mine. Kelsey just moved to Nashville, and she and I've been hanging out like every day, talking about drums.
Is she from Kansas City? She's from Kansas City,
yeah. And she's a great drummer, and we've just been talking about, and it's funny because it's the first time I've had a female move to town and want to talk to me about making it and playing drums,
not getting wifed,
and and it's kind of funny because I gave her like the normal spiel, but it's just what I know, and she and I have gone out to see stuff. And then today, there's another great female drummer in town, Sarah Tomek, and I think that's how you pronounce her last name. And she's playing with...
She with Maggie Rose?
Yeah, well, she's playing with Steven Tyler now, with his thing.
You are kidding me.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I was like, man, and I sent Kelsey a text today, and I was like, hey, I've given you my deal, but I think you might be better off hanging out with this person, or talking with this person about something, because they may have a more direct feel about... being a female.
Right.
As much as I don't see female and male, I see good or bad player, or I see good player and better player.
As much as we'd like it not to be a factor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I will say, she and I have been hanging out, and we've been checking out all the stuff. And she was sitting here today. She said, "Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it." And she appreciated the fact that I was like, you know what, I've told you everything I know, and we'll still hang out and stuff, but you might get a better view of what you need to do from this person.
Have you hooked her up with Megan yet?
So, nope, not yet. We talked about Megan though.
Yeah, she's another killer drummer.
And so, but it was just like, so it's funny that now, like, I remember being the guy, like, I used to bug the shit out of Lee Kelly and Pat McDonald and Shannon Forrest and Morrow and all those guys. And it's funny now that nowadays I'm the guy that people are calling.
You're the one that's reachable.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I've always put it out there. I mean, I'm single, so I think my phone number's on Facebook. I've just never taken it off. I don't I don't care who has my phone numbers. Like, if I don't know you and you're ballsy enough to call me, I'm stupid enough to answer, or I'm going to answer regardless. I don't, it is what it is. But it's flattering that people want to reach out to me about Nashville. I just hope that, I'm able to give them what they need to start their careers here. But if, like in Kelsey's case, where I think I do have what it needs, what I think I can give her the goods, I also am one who is very quick to pass it off to someone else who I think, that's not really passing off, but saying, hey, reach out to this person because they might be able to give you more direct advice about a particular thing, and then you're able to take what I said and what they say and put it together. And it doesn't even work for, and it's not always for females, like anybody, like I'll tell anybody, if you can meet up with Chris McHugh, if you can meet up with whoever, depending on what you want to do, find that person or persons that do what you want to do, and then talk to them, and then go home, and write your mental book report of everything that you've collected, and then you go on your way. And while you're not, since you've made those connections and you've talked to those people and you've made your decisions, you go do things, and when you come to a crossroads, you know which guy to call because you know who's done what and which way they went. So if you go, okay, so I'm at this point, well, this person said you do this, the other person didn't really touch on this, and the other person, I don't think they ever had to do this. Okay, so this person had, okay, hey, person, whatever, man, like, so what do I do? And that person will give you the advice, and you move on, and the next, then it keeps happening. Like, it happens to me every day. Like, somebody will call me about something, I'm like, I don't know, or, okay, let me talk to this person, or if I had issues about something, and I have a group of buddies that were on the same text message thing, I just threw it out there, and the person with the answer answered.
Yeah. Yeah. The cool thing about, living in a town where there's so many players that are available to do that is that, if I have a question about being a dad, I probably wouldn't necessarily ask a buddy of mine, even though he's a killer drummer, if he doesn't have any kids. But I mean, you have a daughter, or I can, if I have a question about having a small army, I can ask Tommy Harden. I mean, it's like there's guys that have, specialties, and that's what I think makes Nashville so unique, is that we have such an eclectic group of players in town.
Oh yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just people. It's like you're people that do the thing, and certain people resonate with each other, and it works, and some people don't. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people about things, and as much as I talk to them about it, they still don't get what I'm saying, and you just go, all right. You know what I mean? And then they go to the next person, and that person tells them something, and they don't get that, or then you have people who get it right away, who just go, man, this is all right, and you see that person, you go, man, you're killing it. Like Caleb that's playing with the Bray Elders right now. I remember when he was a sound guy, he was a sound engineer with this girl, this bluegrass band, and he and I kind of talked a little bit, and I can't take credit for anything, but he's always playing drums, but when he decided that he wasn't going to do sound anymore, he was going to play drums, he played drums. It was like, I think he played with Gloriana, and then from Gloriana, he played with Brett Elders, and which is a great gig, I just saw him play, we did that CMT tailgate party thing, and he was playing with Brett, and I was like, man, you were killing it, dude, like, I'm super happy for you. So you see that you see people that do that stuff, so,
yeah. No, it's true. Well, dude, I know you gotta get going. Is there any last little bits of advice you'd like to say or share?
Don't move to Nashville.
There's no gigs here.
No, you know what? I think that whatever you do, just have fun. You have good days and good days. There's no such thing as a bad day. The only person that makes a day bad is you. You can't control what other people do. You can't do it. You can't control what people think. You just have to do your thing, and you have to learn how to react. You know what I mean? You can have things planned out, but as I heard in a song once, it said, "If you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plan." That's a true statement. As cheesy as that sounds, it's so true. You have to just live your life and stay as positive as possible. You can't. you can't dwell on things that don't go your way because you really don't know if it went your way or not. You know what I mean? You may you may want to get the Keith Urban gig, right? And you may get the Keith Urban gig, but once you get the gig, you may fastly realize it is not the gig for you. So then, two things have to happen. You have to quit the Keith Urban gig, or you will get fired from the gig. And either one isn't healthy at that point. For someone who says, "Man, I really want this," and then
right.
you get, I'm just using the Keith Urban gig. But it could be any gig per se. Because I would love to have the Keith Urban gig, but Seth has it. Anyway, it's great. But I guess what I'm saying is that whatever the situation is, I would love to do this record, and then you get there, you're like, oh man, this is so not what I thought it was going to be, So, you gotta be happy.
I will say for me, that was one of the biggest eye-opening experiences that I had upon moving here, is that many of the things I expected to be a certain way ended up not being that way at all.
Yeah. Well, it's not, it's not an award. No one wins. Or everybody wins, how you want to look at it. I look at it as everybody wins, because winning is positive. So, the way I see it is that, say you go into an audition and you don't get the gig, you still win, because you got called to the audition. You got to play with people that you'd never played with before. All of a sudden, people, if you did your best, if you went in and played your best, there's a group of 4 or 5 people who have never seen you play before, saw you do your best, so when something else they hear come up, they're like, man, that guy, he killed it. We picked this dude because me and John play pool together, but this guy could be cool for your thing, and next thing you know, you get that gig. So I think it's, just staying positive about everything, whatever it is, your personal life, your professional life. Just try to stay, because at the end of the day, if you have a shitty day and you go on a gig, the customer doesn't care about your shitty day.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing they want to do is have a good time, because they're coming there to escape maybe their shitty day. And so if you're having a shitty day and they're having a shitty day, and everybody's shitty, next thing you know, there's a bar fight. And then tiny rabbits get killed. And nobody wants to see tiny rabbits being killed in a bar. That's kind of what it is.
I think we should just end it on that, because that's great. Thank you so much, man.
You don't like rabbits. No problem.